is Peter Thomson. I'm the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Ocean, and I've spent the last 5 days here. There's been lots of highlights for me. There's been lots of low points. I travel from country to country. I'm in probably 6 continents every 2 months, and I get very depressed at times about how bad things are. And if you think I'm being doomist, that's not the case. I'm somebody who's a pragmatist who's trying to make a better future for my 4 granddaughters. But things are bad, let's face it. Read the UNEP emissions gap report that just came out very recently. And the Secretary General of the United Nations said after reading that if leaders do not close that emissions gap, and when you say the leaders, that's the big countries of the world, because that's where the emissions are coming from. If they don't close that emissions gap, we are plunging into climate disaster, headlong into climate disaster were his words. Disaster, not crisis, disaster. So, it's hard not to be a little bit depressed about that sort of thing, but the highlight for me is that here we are addressing what we're going to do about it, the solutions, they're coming through. You were in that coral reef emergency session meeting that we just held now. What we are going to do for coral reefs, it's inspiring the number of solutions that are out there, but it all comes back to closing those emissions, the emissions gap. If we don't do that, then all our efforts will be in vain. So the other highlights for me is the comprehensiveness of it. People get it now that we are in trouble, and so everybody's asking what are we going to do about it. So I'm going from here to a deep sea meeting. What are we going to do about the deep sea? How are we going to protect that? How are we going to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030? That was all agreed to 2 years ago, but are we actually getting there in numbers? No, we're not. So the good thing was, people are sitting down and actually putting a plan in place as to how we're going to do this over the next 6 years. So I was very encouraged by that as well.
Great. You called during the emergency session for all the countries to come to Nice ready to pledge more money to the Global Fund for Coral Reefs.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we are you're also preparing a political declaration which is led by the representatives of Cabo Verde and Australia.
Yes.
What are the key points that you expect to see in this declaration that we want to see signed in Nice next year?
As far as the first one is concerned, the pledging conference, the pledging event is going to be held at the UN Ocean Conference in June next year. The pledge is to bring money for the Global Fund for Coral Reefs. That's the UN administered fund that is going to do all the work necessary to save coral reefs. And you would have heard in that event where we were just now that New Zealand has just given $10 million US towards that fund. That's $2 for every New Zealand man, woman and child. So if we can get to that kind of scale with other countries, then we can do all this work that you heard about in there about how we're going to save coral reefs. So that pledging conference in Nice next June is very important. As far as the political declaration is concerned, that too will be a very important moment in Nice when countries adopt the political declaration. They will of course adopt the political declaration because they're the ones that are putting together in New York through the UN process. All member states have a chance to agree what is going to go into that political declaration, but obviously it's going to center around the urgent action now required to save the decline in the ocean shelf.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.